I wonder if I could write a song with this loop as is. I know enough about music theory to tell you it's an odd time signature, even though it sounds like it's 4/4. You can tell when I play like a whole run up, ascending or descending scale. Listen. See it's still in tune? Sync. See it already fell behind. Now it's not lining up. I'm not saying I'm not playing in time. What I'm saying is it's not an even amount of beats. I don't know what it is. That's what I'm saying. I know enough about music theory to know it's odd, but not enough to tell you what. This could be 7/8 time or 11/12 time. No, it'd be 11/12 time, 7/8 or what else? What did Neil Young do? Is there a 6/8? No, because 6/8 would be. No, would it be 6/8? No, 6/8 would be 3/4, right? Is that a waltz? Oh my god. I don't know why there's math in fucking songwriting. I heard Billy Corgan talking to Rick Beato, and I swear to God, what he was explaining, how he was putting songs together, I was thinking in my head, wow, that sounds a lot like mathematical. And then all of a sudden, Billy Corgan says that songwriting is not math. And at first I thought he was joking, like he was calling himself out, but then I realized he meant it. And then I realized he meant it to a more extreme version, like the way Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, kind of, I don't know if you guys know this, but he wrote some like apps, some programs. He's like a computer genius. I mean, yes, he is technically a genius. Apparently it's not that hard. And, I mean, like, you don't have to score that high on the IQ chart to be considered technically a genius. Like, by that original definition, I think Madonna would be too. Anyway, she's in Mensa. She is smart, people. See, not me, what I'm trying to say, I already lost. Oh, what I was saying was when Nirvana was on Top of the Pops, Kurt Cobain had later said he was possessed by the ghost of Jim Morrison because you're supposed to lip sync on Top of the Pops, but for whatever reason, some bands wouldn't play it because they wouldn't let them play live. And then some bands they gave into, and then some bands there's a concession or a condition. Like, I think I saw the Pumpkins play, and they had, like, Billy singing live, and maybe it was a live cello player, but the rest of the band didn't play. Weird things like that. So when Nirvana was on and they did Smell Like Teen Spirit, it was Kurt's vocals were live, but everything else was mime. So it was really funny. You should look this up online. Because, like, Chris, I don't know what the fuck it is. Is it Novoselic, as everyone says, or Novoselic, as the people in Seattle say? And you see all this stuff. My friend Ed, Living Dead Ed from Seattle, he lived down the block from Kurt, or at least when Kurt would sleep in the van. So Chris, he lived down the block from Chris Novoselic, and he said that I think it was Chris Cornell lived on the same block. So I mean, they were, everyone says they were friends, but like when I see these things online about were they competing? Were they this? What did Kurt think about Chris? Did you hear when he said that? They were friends for years before their bands blew up. And I mean, they used to go to each other's rehearsals. And that's how I got some confidence, because Ed would come and watch us rehearse. And this was my first band when I was 19. I started a band. I started very late. I was very insecure. And Ed, he told me he used to go and watch Nirvana rehearse all the time. And he said it was just like our rehearsals. Like, not only the same vibe, but the way we did it seriously. Some bands are insane, and they'll play like one part of a song over and over and over again, or one. He said we basically do the same thing. We try to play through a set. We try to pretend we was a live show. And, if we had new songs, we'd probably work on that eventually, but when we all walk into a room, you gotta warm up. So we had a couple of our songs, or a couple covers even, it doesn't matter, whatever is easy and fun to play. Stuff you can kind of do with your eyes open. So that's when everyone's adjusting their levels, making sure the mic doesn't squeal, making sure the highs aren't too high and the lows aren't too low, making sure no one is overpowering another with their sound and loudness. You want everything to be equal. And we got really good at that. So we got really good at playing live. Just getting onto a stage, and all of a sudden you can hear the drummer, the bass, and the guitar and the vocals all at the equal volume. If any band comes and presents that immediately, yes, the sound man is responsible, partly. But for Dimes and most shitty venues in New York City, it's the band's responsibility. These places are so small, the PA doesn't even really make a difference. What you're hearing is coming from the stage, usually. There are nice clubs, like, let's say, Trash Bar, which really wasn't trash, or Bowery Electric, or CBGB's when it existed. Those kind of places, you are at the mercy of the sound man. Sometimes you could put your amp into the headphone jack. But I used to get upset with one of the sound guys, just one, at Arlene's Grocery, because if I had my amp dialed up to anything higher than 2, and mind you, they go up to 10, he would get upset and say I was too loud. But the thing is even with the digital amps, there are sweet spots. I don't know if they do that intentionally, if they make them to mimic and kind of react the way a 2 amp would, but if you're playing an amp, even a solid state amp on 2, it's not going to sound good. It's just not. So that's why they have these inventions called hot plates, which I guess is for these older times when there were, just 2 amps. So this way you could put your amp up to like 8 or 9 or 10, and the hot plate basically would absorb whatever, I don't know, signal or pass or whatever. I don't know the technical jargon. I am not a guitar or an amp guy at all. But then, because it was a buffer in between, you would hear a pleasant volume. You could have it super low, but it still was crunching as if it was on 10. You understand? Matthew from Not a Surf taught me that. And I have completely lost all trains of thought. The choo-choos have left the stations, and I have no idea what points I was trying to make. I'm so out of it. I'm very, very overtired. Got into a fight. Not a fight. I didn't even know. Like, my dad was mad at me all day yesterday, and not even mad. My mom called me today and said he was really hurt. So, like, I was really hurt because it was all, of course, something out of context. I didn't at all try to hurt him. I guess I was texting, and I was too loose with the lips, as often happens with me. But to make it worse, I do remember I took Benadryl and a sleeping pill that night. So it was probably like the equivalent of Roseanne Barr texting racist things under the influence of Lunesta. So Whatever I said, my dad really took out of context and took it to heart, and I was really upset, and I feel so bad. My mom told me to let him cool off because, like, I even had tried to call just to apologize, and he won't even take my calls. Oh my god. So anyway, I'm just saying, I don't remember. I was talking about my first band for some reason, and we were good. Oh yeah, I was saying confidence. My confidence came because Ed used to go and watch Nirvana shows. And he said they would rehearse the same way as us. But not only that, he said we sounded just as good. Just as rough around the edges. And we rehearsed in a very small room. And I've seen the room Nirvana used to rehearse in. At the time I hadn't. So I can't ask Ed if that was the room. But I assume it was because Ed did tell me that Kurt would face the wall. And he thought it was because of a shyness thing. He said that Kurt was... Because, I was insecure. And my singing didn't get good until about a year and a half in. And I was in that first band for 3 years. So think about that. I had so much love and support from the bass player, from my new friends in the band. We really were like a little gang, like a little family. Because I sounded like ass. And they never told me that. They just encouraged me. And then after half a year. No, was it a year and a half? Yeah, it was a year and a half. After a year and a half, I started sounding good. For whatever reasons, when we did our EPs, like our very first recordings of Lately and, Martyrs, and these things still sound great today. They were only done 6 months in, and part of that is due to Deshaun. Deshaun Quorum really knew what he was doing. He had his digital 8-track. He went to audio engineering school. He went to IAR. He hooked us up with Bush Dr. Blaken, who recorded Norah Jones's first album. Don't know why you didn't come, waiting for me. And I do love it, but he even said that Norah Jones album is all about recording silence, recording space. It's more about the spaces in between the notes that you're recording, and you're filling up less. If it's a tape or a compact disc, he said you're filling it up less than usual when you record an album like Norah Jones, because if you were to calculate silence versus audible playing, the silence outweigh. I'm sure that's not true, but that's what he was saying. That's how he was trying to express what a different procedure it is to record a quiet album. And of course, that's been in the back of my mind now since I was, 20. Like I said, I started the band I learned how to play guitar when I was 19. Dropped out of college. All I did was play guitar. Met someone. Listen to this. I met someone who doesn't even like the Smashing Pumpkins. But in order to find people to play in the neighborhood, because we lived in Bensonhurst, he went to AOL. That's how old we are. This was the year 2000. He went to AOL, and he did a search. I guess there was this thing called Hometown or whatever. And I did have my stuff up available for dating and everything. And I never did go on a date with anyone myself. But Neil, my friend Neil, he showed me a profile that he matched with. It was John Gilligan. And I don't know why he said he's not for him. Or maybe he was too shy. I don't remember. But he really was like, you should hit him up. You should call him. You should. And it wasn't just one time. I think it was like in one ear out the other. And then he brought it up again another day. For whatever reason. And I did. And we had that like fucking storybook romance. Like it was a rom-com, I swear to God. We had the most amazing date. We did a movie and a date, Lincoln Center. And it was like unreal, like, feeding each other. Like fireworks. Like just so romantic, went up by Central Park by the lake. Like, I can't even. And one of the movies we saw on a date was Amelie. Like, we were just the cutest. Neil used to call us a power couple. And then when Missy joined our band, we were the dropouts, and we were 4 Irish, Italian, white guys. And John didn't even like us. I shouldn't have said it that way. Like, people loved us. But Kevin Nolan was a big, big drunk. But he was so supportive, and he had been in enough bands to know how incredible and special we were, but I didn't believe him. If I had known then what I know now. I've been in good bands since, but I didn't realize how rare it was to be in a band with 4 people who are capable songwriters, capable singers, like all 4 of us would sing, and we would write songs together. Like Kevin and I would bring them in, but it really was like Lennon McCartney. Kevin Nolan said that all the time, and I didn't even know the Beatles well enough to know what he meant. But the more I learned about the Beatles, the more I realized we were like the Beatles. So, like, let's say we had an 11-song set. 6 of them would be mine, 5 of them would be Kevin's, and then we would have argued. So to prevent arguing and compromising, because we were so prickly and sticklers like that, just like Lennon McCartney apparently. Like, let's say I opened the set with Stillwell Avenue, then the next gig, without a doubt, Kevin would have to open the next show. We would take turns, because we would get that butthurt over shit like that, and if Mike would help me with a song, and we'd spend like 2 hours, working out the arrangement of one of my songs on a Saturday. If Kevin brought in a song, you better believe we have to spend at least that much time on his song, or he's going to feel like, we're choosing him over me. And it worked like that for years. And Kevin Nolan didn't work in many ways. And I shouldn't get too personal, but I will. He strangled his mother, and almost to death, and the cops rescued her, and in court, yes, he had to go to court, and him and his mother had to testify. I swear, like, you can't make this shit up. And they had a doctor to get him off. He wound up doing just community service and a mental institution stay. He didn't have to go to jail. He got off because they were able to prove, because Kevin was screaming a name that wasn't his mother, that they had proven he was in such a violent fit of rage, like a fugue state or something, that was a break from reality, that he was legally insane at the moment. And of course this was from liquor. He wasn't really a drug guy. He was a boozer. I mean, we'd have rehearsal at 10 a.m. Saturday, and we'd show up, and we couldn't wake him up. And we'd be outside throwing rocks at the window, banging on the door. Sometimes till 11:30. I remember one time it took us an hour and a half. We get upstairs, he's in the shower. He literally just woke up, and he's trying to wake up. The pot of coffee's on, he's in the shower. And we step into the living room and the band room, and every surface, I am not exaggerating you, every flat tabletop, every surface area exposed had a Budweiser can, and a Budweiser bottle, a Miller Lite, Natty High Life, Coors Light, every cheap brand of beer you can think of. I'm talking hundreds. So that was his drink, beer. And I'm sure he had people over, but like, this was beyond what I've seen in movies. I'm not exaggerating. Like, a little nightstand would have had 30 empty bottles of beer on it. His coffee table in the living room, just a normal little coffee table that, if you shouldn't, but you could put your feet up on it, like that kind of coffee table. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, like 100 bottles of beer. And, spilled all over, the floor was sticky. You would have thought, like, Kid and Play had a house party there the night before, That's what I mean when I said it was beyond what I've seen in movies. So, that wasn't the last straw or anything. I'm just trying to explain that's what a terrible drunk he was. And, the house was haunted. He was keeping his brother's spirit alive. And, Kevin was older, so he was 33 when I was 19. And Mike Finnerty was 18 when I was 19, and Kevin Sacco was the same age as me. So we were 18, 19, 19, and 33. But Kevin, even though Kevin knew more about life and knew more about tricks, he taught me how to play a 12-string guitar. He taught me how to play slide guitar better. He taught me techniques about playing slide, techniques about scale, techniques about, honing in your sound, EQing on an amp. Just simple stuff like even overdubbing, like the way you strum. If you have like a rhythm playing on a guitar and you want a second guitar to gling come in, you want the gling to start on the beat. Everyone plays it incorrectly where you make it end on the note, but you don't want it to end. You want it to start there. So that means you have to basically play it early. You have to play before the beat, so it ends and strikes with the gling right where it's supposed to be. And if you do that, holy shit, you can tell, like, oh, that's why all these bands in the 60s and 70s sounded immaculate and amazing. So we employed all of these little tricks, all these little arrangement tricks to make us really dynamic. All of our songs had multiple breaks and spaces. It wasn't so much that we were proggy or like math rock or anything like that, and we weren't trying to be difficult. We were just crafting these really perfect pop songs, a la Beatles, a la Cars. And it really was like we were Lennon McCartney, Kevin and I, because we would go over each other's houses with acoustic guitars and just play. And our band played acoustic all the time. And Kevin Nolan always said, the mark of a good band is you can play all their songs acoustic. If you try to play, a band acoustic and their songs don't sound good, if they don't translate, then the band sucks. And I had never thought about that, but people had said similar things like Bob Dylan. Someone had said, Bob Dylan writes amazing songs even though he's not an amazing performer. And they were like, you ever notice when other people cover Bob Dylan, it sounds better? And I didn't ever notice that, but I think that's true, See, like with Prince is awesome. So sometimes I'll hear the cover songs and they're good, Sometimes they're exceptional, like Sinead O'Connor or Seville Green. But Prince also sounds amazing when he does Nothing Compares to You. Prince is amazing. But Bob Dylan, that shit was true. Other people would perform songs better. So we were conscious of this. We would not let anyone play our songs better than us. And I do remember one specific show at Desmond's. That's when Mikey Baltimore and the Highway Gimps, they played with us often. It was basically like the way Nirvana came up with Mudhoney. If we had become popular, it would have been the Highway Gimps and the Amazing Stereolites. That's actually why the Mighty JSE is the Mighty JSE. Because, like Spider-Man, which I didn't even realize at the time because the Amazing Spider-Man movies hadn't come out yet, and I didn't read comic books, they were calling us the Amazing Stereolites, kind of like the Amazing Spider-Man, and I guess insinuating, maybe, I don't know if they even thought it this far through, maybe that I was Peter Parker, I mean, at our first show, I did wear a suit. In my head, I had it that, we were the Beatles. It was crazy, man. And, of course, Mike Finnerty showed up, like, just in a t-shirt with his chain. And Kevin Sacco showed up like a greaser. He loved that whole James Dean look. But so did John Lennon. So he would wear a tight t-shirt or a wife beater. And he would take his pack of Marlboros and roll it up, tuck it in his short sleeve, roll the sleeve around it. So, the cigarette pack was suspended in his sleeve. You know what I mean? That look. He'd wear like the tight jeans with boots with black shoes. And when he wanted to get fancy, when he saw me wearing suits to gigs and stuff, he bought wingtip, because he also liked ska. So he bought those wingtip shoes, like the black and white checkered shoes. Dude, oh my god, we were so stupid. But our songs were great. And I remember we opened for, a way better band at CBGB's, and I was so embarrassed. But we played really well. And the band that I thought, I was so used to people making fun of us. I remember when we played Lemoore, the place that Kiss made famous. When we played Lemoore, we almost got booed off the stage. It was like a heavy hard rock night. I think we were opening for Clutch. I mean, I don't know what they became. I know they've evolved. Or gone through members or something. They're still around, Clutch. But at the time, in the early 2000s, I'd listen to, their records. I used to listen to them, actually. I was very excited we were opening for Clutch. We also opened for Sponge. But they sounded like Tool at the time. Clutch at the time sounded like Tool. And I thought that was intentional, even the names, Tool, Clutch. So it was a heavy metal hard rock show. Clutch was the headliner. And we were opening. And like I said, we almost got booed off the stage. But that energy, that was my first taste of energy and giving it back. And, you versus the crowd, hecklers, all that. And, oh man, it's fun. I thrived off of it. I got really good at that. I almost love it now if I get to a show and it's confrontational. But it was rough, for years. I do remember a few years after that, I was playing with Rick at Liberty Heights Tap Room, which is on not Van Cortlandt, down in Red Hook. And it was the 5 Points Brewery. I don't know if it's still there, but they had an attached bar or restaurant. So cool. They made the best pizza. They had like a whole diner style. You could go there as a restaurant. Half of it was a restaurant. The back half had seats and tables so you could still eat and watch the music. They had a really nice stage and curtains and everything. And we were playing there, and there was just, I don't know if it was a bachelorette party or whatever, but it was the guys, not the girls. There was just a few guys that just wouldn't shut up, and they were so loud. And I stopped the set. I literally stopped the show to berate them and embarrass them. And it was awful. You know, you would think it's cool. It's like something you'd see in a movie, and it'd be like, yay, people would cheer, and then the person who yelled got off the stage all happy and smoked. No, that's not what happened. I felt awful. I was so depressed afterwards. I was so ashamed of myself. You know, so that's all went into my notches on my belt. Experiences, life experience I learned. I can still, make fun of and attack hecklers. It's just, there's a way to do it. A way I've learned. And I'm really good at that stuff. And I love getting laughs. When I realized I was the only member of the JSE, I'm also the youngest member of my own band. How weird is that? You know what I mean? James, last week, counted ages about this. I'm 35. James was 55, and Natalia was just turning 48, I think. So, I mean, and then, Jonas would come in the band. We moved to Hawaii, but when Jonas was in the band, he was, I think, just about 50. And then, Ben and Susan, they're in their 40s. So everyone we played with was significantly... The only one who was close to my age was Pete Macy, and he only played one gig with us. But it was at Webster Hall, which is cool. And then when I was homeless, I remember calling him up, asking him for help. And he literally bitched at me that I hadn't gone to any of his gigs in the last 2 years. And I was like, motherfucker, I'm homeless. I can't afford to eat. You're seriously even he was like, I would let you in for free. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going out and having fun. My life was hell for 2 years. He was really mad at me. He literally used the word support. He was like, I'm not going to help you because I can't support you. I'm not going to support someone who doesn't support me. And in my head, I'm thinking, we're friends. I had him printed in the liners, the credits for our new album, because he was going to appear on the last song, Rock Cliche. But of course, after this falling out, record scratch noise. So, JM is on Rock Cliche. Logan's on it too. Logan's playing Mellotron. Patrick's playing drums. Mitch is playing bass. Joe Haynes is playing bass too. He's playing an upright bass. I'm playing a 12-string guitar elsewhere, and Natalia's singing backups. And yeah, JM accompanies me. There's a lead guitar part, solos at the end, and we trade off each other. It's really, really cool. I love it when bands do those dueling solos thing. And I orchestrated that. I did that on our album, our last song. It's called Rock and Roll Cliche. We all call it Rock Cliche, but as it appears on a set list or the back of the album, I wanted to read Rock and Roll Cliche. Can you hear my voice is getting froggy? So that means I've been talking for a half hour, and that means it's time to go. So I know I had points I was trying to hit up, and I missed my mark. But, I love you all. Keep rocking. I really do love you all, even if it doesn't come out the right way. A lot. And I don't know what else to say. I can't remember, man. I can't remember why I picked this up and started recording in the first place. I do remember you asking me not to, so I didn't, and I'm not going to. Oh man, how I want to. So I guess basically that's why I'm leaving a memo like this. This is fulfilling my fantasy of calling my mother, or reading to my mom, or whatever. J. Sharp Esquire, on the verge of his comeback, on the verge of my poetry book compiled with Thomas, and on the verge of releasing The King Crawls, JSE number 3.